build an environment of pursuing curiosity.
You know who you are, who you really are. Like,
you are listening to Everyday Educators on 1921 Radio.
Everyday Educators, and we educate every day. Welcome back, loved ones, to another episode of the Everyday Educators Podcast. I am your hostess with the mostest, Jeremy, with the always beautiful, Chi-Town repping, melanated, moisturized, and magnificent. I love alliteration. Miss Nay, how are you?
I am so tired, but I'm good.
It's okay. We're going to make it through. And as always, if you're listening, you can catch us every Saturday on 1921radio.com and everywhere where you get your podcasts, Everyday Educators. And don't forget the S, please. Hit that like and subscribe on YouTube. And the same thing with socials. Now today, we got something special for y'all. We not only have a healer, we have a musician, a part-time comedian. We have the black version of House. Today, we have a real-life medical doctor. On the Everyday Educator Podcast, we have Dr. Luther Walls of the IMAN Health Center on the show, y'all. Thank you, Luther, for being here. How you doing this morning?
I'm good. I'm a little sore from my run, but I'm feeling good.
See, you already better than
You got
us.
up and ran?
Every Saturday.
Okay, you do it once a week?
I do it more than once a week, but on Saturday, I run with an amazing group of individuals, Black Chicago runners. Been my run family for about a year. Got me ready for all the runs that I did this year, all the races. So shout out to them, keeping me alive, healthy.
That's amazing.
Top that day. Look at
I
that.
know. I gotta do better.
Look at that. Wow. Okay. So, for our check-in question, as you all know, I'm sure everyone here ran right to it. Nicki Minaj dropped her Pink Friday 2 yesterday. So my question, what artists are you waiting for to drop a new album?
Ooh. That's a good one.
Good question. That's what I like. See, I'll be working hard on this.
I want to hear Jasmine give us something new. I'm ready. I've been listening to Hotels for like every day, basically, ever since it came out. But I always love hearing an artist grow from album to album.
Same.
And I feel like she really hit a beautiful peak on this one. I love her earlier work. I love, honestly, like everything that she's put out, but I like there was something unhinged about this album. So I just want to see what else she's been working on, because the vocality it's getting more crazy and more insane. And I'm like, what else do you have in you?
That's a great one. What about you, Nay?
It's a hard question, but I think I'm gonna go with Cole. I'm ready for. I'm a big Cole fan. I'm ready for another album. I don't know if I'll ever get it, but if he is ever so inclined, I'm here.
And we thought we never get a 3 Stacks album, and look at what we got. So, Lord willing.
Amen. Amen.
You know, I was going back and listening to the old John Legend before he was a faithful husband. And his first 2 albums was just like cheating songs, but they were fire.
We don't have to know. You don't. What's that
she
song?
don't have to know.
She don't have to know. She don't have to know is a hit.
Again, another again. Too many. So I'm not saying I'm encouraging him to cheat on Chrissy, but I do need him to like tap back into that kind of vibe and give us, something a little more sultry and not so poppy. So my next question for you all is, do you know how to play spades?
Yeah.
Okay, see? All right, very good. Very good. 2 points on the board for you guys. All right, so where did you learn? Where did y'all learn how to play spades?
Like when I think I was like 16 or 17, Um, I still, even at that age, got the shame of like, you black and you don't know how to play spades. But thank God I'm a fast learner. So very quickly I was like, I watched for a couple rounds and I said, okay, let me see if I got it. First one, I think I reneged, and I was like, okay, I'll never do that again because they talked about me like a dog. But I learned from my mistakes. So after that, I said, okay, give me one more chance. And after that, we won. So
Okay.
Amen.
Oh man,
I had
that's
to
a
redeem
beautiful,
myself. I
beautiful
redeemed a little bit.
testimony. All right. See, you can't have a testimony without a test. All right.
Amen.
All right. What about you, Nate? Where'd you learn how to play?
I learned in 6th grade. I
Okay.
had a math teacher. I don't know if this is good or bad. I had a math teacher that was like doing a unit kind of like on like speed, dice, like the whole like, and so he threw spades in there and taught us all how to play spades. And so I got a little rusty over the years because I didn't play for a while. But recently I redeemed myself. I was in California with my in-laws and me and my partner won. So yeah.
Look at that. I feel like I always knew how to play. It just, I learned, like my mom taught me very early. Like if you're going to be sitting here, then you're going to have to learn how to play. So, but it might have been 2nd grade, something around that time, pretty early. Which brings us to our next segment, Actual Factual. And that's where we have a conversation about something going on in the news. So this semester at Harvard University, students Aaliyah Gary and Chelsea Grain Jefferson held the first spades clinic for 50 of their classmates before the students left for Thanksgiving break. Now, this story comes to us via Dante Ramos of Blavity.com. Hopefully I pronounced his last name right, or Ramos. So Gary and Jefferson were inspired to host this clinic after being asked by fellow students to teach them how to play, and the embarrassment some people feel when admitting they do not know how to play spades, such as yourself. So Jefferson is quoted in saying, "This is one of the few intergenerational activities and experiences that you can really share with your parents or grandparents or aunts and uncles." Now, what I want to ask you all is, can you think of any other activities, traditions, or experiences that may have been like more common, in like the Black youth development when you were growing up that you don't really see today?
Ooh, that we don't see today.
I guess the first one that comes to mind for me is like going to church. Like
Yeah.
we went to church every single Sunday for like years straight. And I just like, you just didn't do that. Like,
Yeah.
and like other people that I knew, even though like we were Catholic and I didn't know a lot of other Catholic families or Catholic kids outside of my own church, the kids at my school, at a public school, like they also like, we would talk about like, oh yeah, I have to get up and go to church. Like it just felt like at that time, everybody like went to church. Like you
went somewhere.
Yeah.
you went somewhere on Sunday morning.
Or Saturday,
or
shout out to my
Saturday,
7-day
yes.
Adventists out there.
But now it just doesn't
Yeah.
seem like that. I mean, I will fall on the sword. I do not go to church regularly anymore, but that is like the first thing that I think of.
Yeah,
That's a good
definitely,
one.
that's a real good one. I don't know if I'm gonna top that one because I think I've played at a few different churches around the city, and I think every church that I've played at is really struggling with trying to draw more like younger folks, millennials, the Gen Zers. Like it's just hard. Like I know I grew up Pentecostal Kojic, so like, and my
Ooh.
granddad was a pastor, so I was at church all the time.
All
But
right
like
now.
my parents were revolutionary when they started to be like, "Are y'all coming to church?" And we were like teenagers. But now I feel like it's just like kids don't come, or if they come, then they're not engaged for a lot of different reasons. Cell phones, tablets, whatever, and it's just They don't have kids choir. No, I did all that stuff. So I think the church one is a big one. Because when you do see folks come to church, it's very, they look very othered. They feel very othered. You can see it. It's very like, I don't get what I don't get what this is. It's definitely hard to find that common ground. Even going on dates, being like, "Hey, you go to church?" Like, I know we never went. So
Yeah. Okay. Some of the other like cultural identifiers that I like wrote down were like group dates, like meeting at the mall. Like, you know, as a shorty, you would just like meet you and your three homies would meet up with your girl and her two friends, and you don't see that. You don't see little girls playing double dutch.
Yeah.
Spades, obviously. Speed, I just wrote that on there. And another one is bid whist. Like, my mother taught me how to play bid whist, but like she got to keep teaching me because none of my friends play. So it'll be like a 4-year gap between like I have a session, I'll be like, okay, I remember now how to play. And then like 4 years later, somebody like, you know how to play bid whist? I'm like, damn, I forgot by now. You know? So So one last thing that the article highlighted was the intentionality that Gary and Jefferson had around curating the clinic. They played Black music and even had it catered by a local Black business so that the students could connect the learning of spades to like the broader Black experience. So shout out to those sisters for doing that, keeping it Black at Harvard.
Yeah.
I know, right? All right, Dr. Walls. Now you finna go through a pop quiz.
here we go.
Pop quiz, Nate. Now,
right.
Nate, I put some new questions up, so you got it pulled up.
Yeah, but I don't know if. Hold on. You got me off guard.
I know. See, it's always something new.
I see.
We had a doctor, so I had to do something different.
Be
You can't be the
fancy.
same.
Why I feel like these questions about to be insane.
I mean, you know me, Luther, so it would be just straightforward, right?
I guess.
It's nothing gotcha, no gotcha questions.
Yes.
And God is good. All right. I'll kick it off. So, Dr. Walls, who would play you in your life story?
Ooh. I'm about to say something real stupid. I would go Jamie Foxx. I'm gonna go give me Jamie. Not because I look like Jamie, not because he's at all near my age, but he's probably closer to my height. And I feel like he's just one of the most talented artists, musicians that like I feel like people do not give Jamie his respect, and I would trust him. I would trust him to play all the stuff that has happened in my life. I think he would do a really, really good job, music wise, like medicine wise. I think he could capture my personality really well. I'm gonna go Jamie.
He's the most talented Black man ever, so.
I think so.
Okay. Describe yourself in one word.
One word. Y'all questions are harder than med school. Flexible.
Nice.
One subject you would like to learn more about?
Cars. I really should know a lot more. My dad, my older brother, big car guys. I like luxury vehicles. Let something happen to my vehicle though, and I'm calling them every single time. And I do feel bad at my grown age that I still can't change a tire, but we're gonna cut that out.
Oh no, not cutting that part out.
You'll be surprised though.
I'm gonna put an echo on there, like, can't do it.
Martin or the Fresh Prince? This is
Fresh
a hard
Prince.
question.
Fresh Prince
You
is
said
easy
Fresh
for me.
Prince?
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Best concert you've been to?
I gotta give it to Beyonce for this Renaissance concert. Um,
Only right.
3 hours. Her voice didn't crack. She didn't look tired. That was her singing. It wasn't background. Like I was blown away at her. I was like, this is why she the queen. I get it. I understand. I respect. I'm gonna have to give it to Beyonce.
Nice.
Okay. Beyonce, cool.
The Temptations movie or the Five Heartbeats? This is also hard.
I think I'm gonna go Five Heartbeats.
There you go. There you go. What has been your favorite age so far?
I think this one, 29.
Okay. All right.
If you could have an unlimited supply of one thing, what would it be?
Money. Next question. Stop playing. Stop playing
All
with
right.
me.
Okay. All right. Easy. See, I told you these easy questions. Where's one place you like to visit?
Um, I really have been for years been meaning to get to Barcelona. But it's like every time I want to do it, something comes up. I was gonna go right after med school, and then we had a whole pandemic. It's been a whole lot of stuff. Every time I try, something bad happens. So we'll see if it ever happens.
That was me and John Legend concerts. For years, something always would pop up. But why Barcelona?
Um, I think like I speak Spanish. My
Hold on.
Spanish.
Let's pause. Let's pause. Let's look at the jealousy in Nate's face. Now, did you grow up speaking Spanish?
I started early. Like neither of my parents are bilingual. I just had an interest in languages, and Spanish kind of stuck. So I pushed and took Spanish class actually seriously in like junior high, high school, college. But in junior high, my teacher like had done like a stayed in Barcelona for a long time. So a lot of the classes that like cultural classes were about different things in Barcelona in Spain, like all different regions, all different music, food, etc. I probably know more about Spain sometimes about than like US things, honestly. And then like it was reinforced in high school. I had a teacher that was from Barcelona, so she was heavy on the Barcelona energy. I'm like, I just need to get there.
Okay.
It's time.
Don't be too jealous, Nate. All right.
I know. If you could be any animal, what would it be?
A giraffe. Because nobody really messes with giraffes like that. Like you can, but you probably shouldn't. Because one bad move, it's over.
Okay. That's real. If you could bring back one TV show for one more season, everyone in their prime, what show would you pick?
Ooh, this is tough. There's two that came to mind.
All right, give us the two. Give us the two.
Living Single. And probably half the world is going to disagree. The Parkers. I love the Parkers. I was watching it even like yesterday. I love the part that Netflix putting the Parkers on was A plus.
That was for you.
Me. That was for me.
You. Yeah, there you go.
If you were to write a book, what would it be about?
Probably like I'm gonna be bold. I'm gonna say racism in medicine, because I think there's just so much to dig into and so many different facets of it and so many different ways you see it and experience it. Some more subtle than others, but it's a trip. Medicine is a trip.
I made that face because I was reading this book called The White Coat. I never finished it. It's here, so I probably should circle back. But it's about that exact thing, about this Black doctor, and like even the smallest instances, he's like, "No, that's racist. Like everything here is racist."
The whole system, honestly.
That's every system, but we can have a whole nother podcast on that. But that's a book I like to read. Nate, can you show us your nails, please? I just need the people to see. They popping. They are
Okay.
popping. Okay, I'm loving it. Just so you know what we do. We stepping out here, everyday educators. You heard? Alrighty, so we are going to move on to talk about the life and times of Baby Luther. So if we brought all of your teachers in a room, what type of student would they say you were?
Black. Let me stop. Let me be serious. That will be part of it. But I mean, I was a good student. Smart, but like also for the most part, I felt like I did a good job of like not going too far and like making jokes, because I'm like, we can laugh, have a good time, but I'm also not trying to, upset the teacher, cause a ruckus in the classroom, because I was kind of talkative, but I knew when to cut it. I knew when to cut it off.
I never gained that skill, but
It got worse as I got older.
Okay, that tends to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to the mean streets of Orland Park, where a young Luther was getting it straight out the mud.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your time at Prairie Elementary and Gerling Junior High. I'm always interested in you middle school folks. That's just like a fascinating world to me. So tell us about how it was.
I mean, so for those that don't know, Orland Park, south suburb, predominantly white, like very, very much white, with speckles of color, meaning like black and brown folks. I can remember the few families that were probably Arabic, Latinx, few Indian, and like a few black, and that was really it. So even though I made the joke about like what my teachers say, and they said as a black student, is because I really often was the only black student in class. I don't feel Prairie, kindergarten. I was there kindergarten through third grade, and race never really was a big influencer. I felt like in how I was treated or responding to. Although looking back, probably it was. I just didn't realize it. Because I was a good kid, because I was a smart kid, I never had issues, and because I often was the only black student in my classes, there was not necessarily an easy comparison to see what it looks like if someone didn't meet those expectations of whiteness and academic excellence and the elitism that really occurs in from an early age in education. So Prairie was fine. Started like that is when I think second or either third grade had something called Cluster. It was a small group of kids that was basically like, oh, y'all are smart. We're gonna put you in kind of an accelerated like learning program. So like that was the start of pre-honors or whatever that they're kind of going forward. Getting to junior highs, start to encounter maybe one or two other black kids, and that again, that's pretty much it. The rest of classes probably 95% white. I might have had one or two Hispanic kids in my class, and that was really it. So I think that's when I first started to be like, something is happening, but I don't have the language yet, or the identity, independence, the confidence to like really remark on it yet. But I like noticed this other girl in certain classes. She was also in honors, but struggled a little bit more, and I would say didn't seem to fit in as easily. And so very much was othered, ridiculed. And it was like hard to protect or step up because I was like, why are you doing these things? Not recognizing the privilege I had from starting off in Orland as opposed to starting elsewhere and then moving to that area and then trying to get caught up in certain ways, not realizing that was a barrier. But basically was able to get through honors, do different sports fine, and it was fine. We found my group of people, the only black dude in the group because it was most of the kids that were in honors, like we were all in the same classes.
Hold on, because you said something I gotta ask. Were you the Michael Jordan of Orland Park?
No,
you said you
no,
played
no.
a couple.
No.
Okay.
We won't have to talk about this much, but I'm athletic. Don't get me wrong. I'm athletic. Basketball, though.
I just imagine like Bill Russell,
it skipped me.
Oh, okay. All
so
right.
badly.
That's
it
okay.
skipped me real badly. It's one of my black shames. It skipped me so bad. Somebody at the gym, I was at the gym like a month ago. It was like, hey, like we need somebody else to play. Like you play. He's like, you want to come join us? I was like, it really hurt. I had to be like, nah, man, that's not me. Like it really hurt. He's like, man, you look like a good player. Like, I wish, I wish. But if I step out here, y'all be like, get this man out of here. I'm not about to get roasted at my grown age of almost 30 years old. No way.
Okay. All right. Well, we can, like you said, we can speed past that
one. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was fine because when you do well, when you exceed expectations, then oftentimes you get this like kind of golden child type of treatment. And so that's how I felt like my experience was. Now, as I got older, probably 7th, 8th grade, I think as I became more aware, seeing this other kid, I felt like I still had something to prove though, of like, I have to be great to show you that we can be great. Mm-hmm. Like that's when I think that mentality started to really kick in of like, it's riding on you because there's not other folks to represent or to prove. And the fact of the matter is that like some of these folks are racist.
Can I just jump in and ask a question? Did you feel like you were the diversity? Like when people would bring that up, it was like, oh no, but we have Luther and he's great and he's the top student and an athlete and all the things. Like, do you think like you were used by your school or maybe like by your community in that way?
Probably more on the academic side, like definitely junior high school. I've felt that way. Even with like the what is it called? The when you're about to graduate, not the accolades, but the
the valedictorian.
The superlatives that people were like, oh, like what was like to like all mine were like, I mean, they were nice, but like they were all academic related. And no, we did great stuff. Me and a couple other folks went to like a national science bowl. We I think we got first place at like something regional, like Argonne Laboratory. So like, I mean, there were things that were worth being celebrated and acknowledged. But I don't think it became as like much as hey, this person exists until I got older, because I don't think diversity was in as much as it is in now, as far as like celebrating and like it being a priority for academic institutions.
Okay, so you mentioned high school and you went to Carl Sandburg. A little familiar with you guys on the track side. So tell us about your experience there. And is this where you like started thinking about you wanted to be a doctor?
Yeah. I had played a. I think I actually for my kindergarten yearbook. I said when I grow up, I want to be a doctor so I can buy a Corvette. And I have a
Oh,
friend that still brings it up. I bounced around with some other
Right.
ideas.
Where's the Corvette?
Listen, where is it? I didn't expect life to be as expensive as it is. As um,
Inflation was much
inflation,
lower
yeah.
back in the 90s.
But maybe one day. I'm not gonna give up hope just yet. Um, but I like played around. Like maybe I would do something with stats related. Maybe I'll do something science related. I thought about law for a second, then I was like, you don't like to read that like that kind of stuff that much. Like maybe for a moment, but not that badly. So kind of still have basically said, all right, we're going to stay along this like medicine like track that I was on. Um, high school also not I would say like my freshman year. Oh god, and I'm still bad at it. If I ever have kids, I can't help them at all. It's like one or two classes I can think about that like I really just struggled. I cannot do geometry to save my life. Um, I think it's literally one of the reasons why I couldn't be a surgeon because spatial stuff just doesn't make sense to me. Um, like people are like, "Oh, can you rap?" I'm like, "Listen, you don't want me to do. I can do procedures, but you don't want me to do a whole surgery on you. You will not survive it." And then like calculus was my other one that really got me. But I mean, high school was fine. Academic wise, I'm not gonna say I skated through things because I feel like that is presumptive, but like, I would have to study, I'd have to do the work, but nothing. I didn't have significant barriers in most of my classes. And again, same basically core group of people, families I was familiar from elementary, junior high, high school. We were all in the same classes, so it was like going to go hang out with my friends when we just so happen to have to learn um, every day. Still, not as many black students. We started to get more black students, but the way Orland is set up is that there's Orland Park proper, and then um, Orland Hills just south of it, and that was where a lot of folks from various parts of Chicago moved to, and those were like predominantly black spaces, but none of them really were in honors classes except for the one student that I knew from junior high. So it was like me and her, and she wasn't in all honors classes or all AP classes. She was in some of them, and that was it. So like again, I was just very, very comfortable for the most part being in predominantly white spaces because I had no other choice. Um, and if you never are like in classes because like it's hard to meet other black students if you never are around them. So I always felt like kind of this. I really wish I could connect with you all, but I don't know how to not like I don't know how to force an interaction. I don't want to force it because I know like if anyone tries to force interaction with me, even now I'd be like, hey, like I'm not really trying to. We don't have to do this. No one's making us do this. And so I still feel like there were tiny things like if we had like a music class that were like there was no honors option, like I might meet a couple of folks and we would talk a little bit, but everyone, we had all known each other for most of the years, so everyone basically had their people, and it wasn't like a obvious in with anybody, which is like, oh hey, and that was like the gist of it. But academics were fine, played tennis fine, and it was cool. Um,
I could see
yeah.
you as an Arthur Ashe type. I could see that. Okay. So then you get to the University of Chicago, and I want to ask, could it have been any other school, and what ultimately made you decide to go there?
So I had actually thought for like years I was going to Northwestern. I'm going to Northwestern. I actually got into Northwestern. Um, and I had visited U Chicago the week before because I was like, I'm apply, see what happens. And I was like, okay, cool. And I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. And I think the next week I went with my parents to go visit Northwestern, and I was like, I'm just not feeling the attachment here. And U Chicago just happened to give me a little bit more money. So like my dad was disappointed because he was like, "Do y'all have sports at U Chicago?" I mean, yes, but kind of not. Because he was really looking forward to going to like all the Big Ten games. But part of it was just like, and I think this has carried me through for a lot of decisions. It's like a gut feeling of like, nah, this is where I'm supposed to be. I know this is where I thought I was supposed to be, but this is where I'm actually supposed to be. And um, yeah, that's kind of how I landed there.
Okay. But so, well, most people listening would have heard about U Chicago because it is, world renowned. Shout out to Obama, all the greats that went there. But I think I know only one other person who actually attended the school. So, like, talk to us about, like, I know somebody really well who went to, like, lab, who kind of grew up, but she ultimately didn't go to the university. So, like, how was it being in U Chicago? I know they run Hyde Park and, like, kind of being in that campus, but not so campusy, feel like, how was it as a student there?
Hard. It was really, really, really hard. I think like U Chicago is definitely a place that I associate with a lot of like struggle. Not, I'm gonna even say yeah, struggle with like socially, struggle with like identity, struggle with like a social consciousness. Like one of the things I knew first when I started is like I'm okay. I'm going with the intention of being pre med, but like I want to be really intentional about being involved in groups that cater to community, ideally in a like a medical or health wise way. Um, so I sought that out, volunteered in some clinics, La Rabida, um,
And
Chicago.
explain to the folks, what Lyra Beat is.
Yeah, so La Rabida is a uh, children's hospital on the south side. Actually, that's where I meet up still to run. But
Oh,
they deal with really, really sick children. Um, Lots of complex cases, lots of kids with genetic disorders, um, a lot of sickle cellers will go there, lots of different handicaps. And so it was like really the first place where I heard the term and like saw it really played out, like the social health determinants, so all those other things that go into what makes someone healthy or not, or their ability to take care of themselves, housing, utilities, having transportation, whether it be public or anything to just get to their appointments, um, access to food, childcare resources. And so you're seeing all of this hit, and you're seeing mostly Black folks. And it's about 7 to 10 minute drive from the Chicago campus proper. And it's really night and day where you can truly see this affluent bubble compared to all of a sudden places that seem a lot more under resourced. So I'm sitting there, Black 18, 19-year-old, like, yo, this is messed up. Like I knew it was bad, but like I didn't know it was this bad. Especially going in after the docs had seen folks and they're identifying these different social health determinants, and we're supposed to be trying to help connect them to these different resources. And there's nothing, I'm going to say there's nothing. There's so few resources for childcare on the South Side. There's not a lot of things we can do to help with housing. To be completely honest, it's like, I mean, hopefully Section 8 will open up was like sometimes what we would be telling folks. Utilities was a little bit better because there were different programs to help with that, but transportation was hard. These different applications are hard. I also did it like right when the ACA rolled out, so did like a lot of insurance and like food assistance applications. Even that was complicated, and you still saw barriers with language. You saw barriers with documentation. You saw barriers with just, again, if people can't get to the clinic, they can't call these different places. They can't get to these different offices to get things turned in. Then you still can't actually reap any of the potential benefits. That's if they end up saying you qualify or not. So I struggled being at UChicago because the way it was painted is like we're really expanding and trying to help pour into the community. And I'm like, that's not what this is. Y'all are trying to get folks out. You are trying to raise and like draw a different kind of people than the folks that are surrounding. There was a lot of racist things said by Woodlawn, which is like right south of East Chicago. And it really was it was casually stated, but there's like clear bias with it as far as like, this is East Chicago campus. And while people might not say you can't go past those boundaries, it was like, if the idea really kind of circulated that if you went south, you were gonna get robbed. And unfortunately, like, folks did sometimes get robbed. Now, obviously, if you're walking around with a whole bunch of stuff, it doesn't matter where you're at. Like, you look like you got things to be robbed, like you're gonna increase your risk potentially for being robbed. But it was really like, if you go south into this poor community, then you're unsafe. That was so I struggled as a Black person at Chicago.
No, for sure. And just so it's very interesting. It's very interesting how you explaining it. Because there are invisible walls, right? As a Chicagoan, like, Hyde Park ain't for you. Like, Hyde Park is not for people from Chicago. There's like the 11 Black people who like from Hyde Park, and then it's like that's the universities, right? And just a little bit of history that I learned this year. South of, I want to say 35th or 22nd Street, one of that, like historically, that was Hyde Park. All of that was Hyde Park. And then that was chartered into Chicago as Chicago was expanding, right? And then it just feels like Hyde Park is trying to take their part of the city back as they expand in both directions, And so you do have the consolidation of resources in Hyde Park, which eliminates it from being accessible to the areas right out that surround it, And like people hear about O Block, that's like a popular term now, but that's like a project that's literally the next block over, like right. The dividing line is the rail, the L. And if you on the other side of that, like, it is extreme poverty. And then if you on this side of it, it's like very lush and lavish. So,
hear me explain. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to just say, explain to the people what the L is. That's a very Chicago thing.
Oh, yeah. So, like, we don't have subways. So we have the elevated rail system shortened as the L. So they are maybe 20 feet above ground, and they, kind of circulate the city. So that's the L. But no, so that's it. I am seeing the parallels, like just those societal factors, those socioeconomic factors that are like compounding. So it's not just that you don't have access to healthcare. It's not just that you don't have access to, the internet and food. And it's like you don't have access to any of it. And so that does impact your health and the ability to get healthy. But it also impacts your education and your ability to be educated. So even if your child was granted a scholarship to go to University Lab, but you live in Roseland, how you gonna get there?
Yeah.
So it's not just that I can't get in. It's not just like, oh, my child can't get health care because, okay, cool, we can let you in this program at La Arbita, but it's like I can't get there.
Yeah.
You know, so there's all those things. So thank you for, you know, kind of highlighting that. Appreciate
Yeah.
that. So I want to kind of move forward to like your medical school experience. Is medical school as difficult as advertised? And if so, what was the most challenging for you? I took one anatomy class and I said, no, thank you.
I mean, I'm not gonna to say medical school is easy. That's a lie. Like, I'm not gonna say it at all was easy. What the biggest thing that made medical school easy for me is because my class was so Black, and so like we all basically still talk to each other. There were in a class of 160. There were, I think, 30 Black students. So you look around the room and it's melanin everywhere. You don't have to explain for probably some of us the first time in our lives, like you have this ability, the code switch that you are so like used to having to do in order to fit in, to seem accomplished, to seem like you belong. Like you don't have to do it because there's just a gang of these Black doctors, Black soon-to-be doctors, who get it, who understand the issues of coming from maybe under-resourced childhoods or communities, the feeling of having sometimes like your success really being important for your like family success, your community success, the pressure of how much it took to get there, the like how isolating it was in that path. I mean, like before college, I started to know some, but like lots of people. I mean, like there's only a few people would be like, yeah, I actually know a Black doctor, let alone have been taken care of by a Black doctor. So having that group was key for me. And my like best friends came from med school. Like there were two folks that I studied with literally every single day for probably 2 years straight until we got split up into clinicals. The only time we might not see each other is on a Saturday, and then sometimes we still see each other on a Saturday. And like it wasn't forced. We didn't always have to like talk, and like we were productive. We held each other accountable. We laughed. We like cried if it was hard. But it made med school so much more fun, so much more doable, because I was like, y'all, these are my people. These are gonna be my people. We still meet up every year. These are people I can vent to and say stuff about what I'm experiencing, and they're gonna get it. And often at times, I think in academic institutions, you know, the resilience was the word that had come up more recently as far as like, which I always get mad at when I hear it. Like, stop telling me to be resilient. Like, yes, it's hard, but like, also, does it have to be this hard? But like, they helped me to be resilient when I didn't want to be, and vice versa. So I had a great time. Like med school, my favorite schooling experience, honestly. And it's also like, you know, I went straight through. So I started med school when I was 22. So it's been how many years that I was studying to just get to do and really learn and focus on the things that I really wanted to do. And then I'm, 30 years when most people start their clinical rotations. And so I was finally getting to do what I've been wanting to do for almost 20 years. So I had a great time. I felt like that made it easier because it was no longer schooling and learning and projects about stuff I didn't want to do. It was stuff that like, oh, this matters. This is going to actually teach me something. Now, some of it, everyone has like the kind of generic classes that you have to do because you have to do, and it's not really super important. But most of it, I mean, like second year onwards was all stuff I'm using now. So like the application for it made it really easy for me to enjoy it, even though on a Saturday because I'm Kojic, on a Saturday I was studying sometimes like 14 hours, and like that's where Sip and Savor came in because I was like I cannot study at home. Shout
I
out
get
to Sip
that.
and Savor.
So it sounds like what I'm hearing is that like you found community in med school, and further found community in Sip and Savor, which Jeremy and I share that with you because we have also found community in Sip and Savor. So shout out to Sip and Savor, specifically 43rd.
Yes.
But what I'm also hearing to that point is the utility in your education.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like it took you 20 years to get to a point where it's like, all right, this matters, and which you had to take the geometry so you know that you're not going to do that. But so that's important, like being exposed.
No, it is. Yeah.
But also it's like, if I'm not going to really work with shale and sandstone and quartz, like, do I need to take this geology class? No. I don't think so.
Can I also ask, like, through this journey, did you find like your bilingualism like showing up for you and like you being able to support some of the people that you ran into because you spoke Spanish, or did like fluency come later in life?
Definitely in volunteer experiences. It was actually, yeah, in college, it was the first time I really, outside of a Spanish class, actually tried to speak Spanish and like made myself apply it in like a real life setting.
Mm-hmm.
And like you figure out, oh, like I really don't know. There's certain words I never had to learn in school. Like we're not talking about application or social security card. Like, they don't teach you that in regular class, but like those are like you start to acquire different words. And one thing that I thought that made it easier is because it's hard to understand how much like language is a barrier until you yourself are like, I am struggling to communicate with someone.
Yeah.
And so like I think that built a lot of empathy for me, and also helps me to advocate even now. Like I speak Spanish probably 70% of the day at work, but like it really kicked in because I was like, it's hard. Like you can't make someone learn a language. First of all, learning any language is hard. Learning languages is hard.
Yeah.
The different subject verbs, just having the vocabulary for different things is really, really hard. And so it is a big, big component of advocacy for me. It's a big thing of like, hey, I'm trying, you're trying. Like we got maybe like you speak a little bit English and for this part, I speak a little bit Spanish for this part, and like we're gonna figure and work it out. So it's a very humanizing experience. It's a very empathic experience. It's a very useful skill. It also helps me. I think it helped in learning how I learn. That's the biggest thing. Like my takeaway from U Chicago, forget like the struggle and all the racism and all the racist things that happened, is that U Chicago taught me how to learn and how to advocate for myself as a learner, which is probably the most important skill folks can have for when you're going towards like a graduate level degree, is how do you learn. If you don't know how you learn, like everything else is 8 times harder. And I think that's where I saw other classmates struggle in med school, is because they were trying a billion different things, and I was like, from day one just about, I was like, I know what works for me. And that made med school a lot easier, not because I didn't have the same quantity or difficulty in work, but because I wasn't trying to figure out how I learned. And I had come off my own. It was a pride thing before, because remember, like my whole thing was the whole black race is counting on you, and you got to prove this to white people. That was like what I was trained in, and like I broke that in college, because it's like, bro, I am struggling And I have like, if I want to get to the next stage, I need to humble myself, and it's not just about humility, but like I need to say, hey, I don't understand this. Break this down for me more, and this is particularly what I don't understand. Even
Yeah.
learning how to ask questions was key. And so like knowing then like people were ashamed to get a tutor. Like we had like I'm grateful for Loyola. Our academic center for excellence, what they called it, like super helpful. Help going over like test taking strategies. Help going over. You can get a tutor. You don't have to pay any money. So like the not being afraid to access those things and really seeing it
Yeah.
as a component of advocacy rather than like a component of humiliation or struggle made med school a lot easier, more enjoyable for me, and then also helped me pass that information backwards to folks that were either applying to med school, folks that were in a lower level for me at med school. Because third year first, I'm like, listen, this is what you need to do. This is a better way to do it. And like,
Yeah.
if you're not getting to this point, like you can give yourself one more test, but we're not gonna wait till the end of the semester to be like, ooh, I'm really don't know if I'm gonna pass. Like, okay, you get 1, 2 tests maybe in the beginning, and after that, you got to call it and say, hey, I need the help, and that's okay. Let's set up
Yeah.
a time. So I think all those skills, even in language of like, I'm advocating for someone else, taught me how to be a better advocate for those that are around me in a lot of different areas, including myself.
Yeah. I feel you on that. I also learned how I learned, I would say like relatively early, probably like my junior year of high school, it started to click like what worked best for me. And that really like carried me through college and grad school and ultimately like my career, like how I am able to learn, aside from when Jeremy used to sit next to me and talk the whole time. That did not help me. But other than that, I have learned
Listen,
how to
don't
learn.
blame your shortcomings on me, okay? That wasn't that. I had nothing to do with that. I was trying to help you out. Right, Luther? We sit there, we productive when we in the shop.
We are. You definitely gotta keep your headphones in though, because if you take them out, that's an
Hey, man.
invitation. That's a sign that you're
Hey.
taking a break.
That's true. And then it's
And,
over.
and, and
It's
but look,
over.
see, but again, that is body language. You are communicating to me something. So, okay. But we're going to move on. So, what type of medicine do you practice? And kind of tell us a little bit about the Iman Health Center.
Yeah. So I am a family medicine doctor. So what does that mean? Primary care doctor. What I like, what I like, and what I liked about family medicine is that it's everything kind of all in one. I knew pretty early on that surgery wasn't for me. So I don't do surgery at all. Great. That kept me out of the OR and then kind of helped me to focus on what I liked. I like kids, but I knew I didn't want to exclusively see kids. I like OB-GYN, but I knew I didn't want to be on call like that. But I wanted to be able to do some of the procedures, women's health. And then I like just internal medicine and like chronic and complex medical conditions. So I get to do all of that still. As part of my residency, I delivered babies, but I don't do that anymore. Praise God, I can. People still make jokes about like, something happens, you're gonna deliver my baby. I said, no, I'm not. I'm gonna call 911. You're going to the hospital. I'm not doing that. But yeah, I love my job because I still, my brain has to stay, I have to tap into all the things that I learned and like still be able to apply it. So at Iman Health Center, it's a federally qualified health center, which usually caters to folks that are underinsured, uninsured, and it's centered in the community. We're at 63rd in California, so just a little bit west of Inglewood, a little bit south of Chicago Lawn area, like right by Marquette Park. So we
Nay,
see.
Nay is so excited right now. That's her neighborhood.
It is down the street from my beloved close high school, Maria High School. So Maria was on 67th in California, so I know
Okay,
that area
I
super
got
duper
you.
well.
Dope. It's all small world. It's exactly what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. I told people even on like my med school application, I was like, I want to take care of Black and brown people. Straight up. I'm not saying that other folks don't. I think everyone deserves good health care, but I'm like, oftentimes our Black and brown folks are forgotten in that because um, other places may have more notoriety. Sometimes they even compensate a little bit better. And I'm like, I didn't get into medicine to necessarily be a name in medicine, but I went into medicine to take care of the community. So I see, if I had to break it down, it's probably like 40 to 50% Black or African American, and then probably another 40% are Latinx. Um, and then the last like 10% or so would be folks that identify as Arabic. Languages that we see the most common: English, Arabic, and Spanish. We have a lot of migrant patients right now because of what is that? Which district is that? I'm trying to remember, but it's like kind of close to, what is that, 63rd and like Racine. There's a police station or so, maybe a little bit more west, but that's where a lot of our migrant patients are coming from because they can either take the bus or walk. And so it's great because I'm seeing a lot of kids. I'm seeing a lot of adults. I'm seeing folks my age. I'm seeing folks middle age. I'm seeing older folks. What I really like about Iman is the community aspect, and that we're a health center, but we're also tied to a not-for-profit organization. And so that I feel like just gives a little bit different of a vibe to the healthcare center. We have Guys Next Door as part of our Green Reentry program, which is a program designed for those that are at risk, either have been incarcerated, at risk of being incarcerated, at risk for like gang violence or being victims of gang violence. And it provides job training, or it's mandatory to participate in behavioral health activities as well. So there's a component of therapy. Then a lot of the guys will come over for like their healthcare. One of the things that I really have been happy to get more involved in is part of like the healthcare lecture series with our Green Reentry program. Because I secretly like to talk. I'm an introvert that low key likes to talk about what I like to talk about and who I like to talk to. Outside of that, hold up. But it's great because it's a lot of guys, some as young as 18. I think one of the oldest guys in the program is like in his 50s, but it's usually like 18 to 30s. We're talking mostly it's because it's mostly men, not exclusively, but it's mostly men, talking about basic health components. So I've talked about like sexually transmitted infections and PrEP, and we did something with like diabetes and cholesterol and high blood pressure, and we're working on kind of redefining what that lecture series looks like. So I'm getting to see the people that I want to see. I'm getting to speak the languages that I want to speak. I'm still getting to do teaching, and hopefully, if all goes according to plan, we're going to start having more residents rotate through our clinic. So I'll still be doing like more formal medical teaching. So I really get to maintain, if not strengthen, a lot of the skills that I've worked on and I thought were important in my medical career. So it's very, very, very diverse, and doing procedures, Nexplanon, IUDs, knee injections, taking off skin tags. What else do I do? Removing toenails. Look at Dave's face. Look at her face. That's my favorite procedure. It's low-key kind of gruesome, but there is nothing more satisfying than when that toenail clips, like, detaches from this. Oh, I can't explain it. But it's the way people feel about pimples being popped. Look at Jeremy's face. The way people like to watch pimples being popped. I actually hate pimples being popped and like seeing boils and stuff pop, but that's how I feel about toenail removals.
So I have to ask, under what circumstance would someone need their toenail removed?
Sometimes if like it's already sometimes if it's like a really bad infection, if we've been trying to treat it and like it's really not responding, a lot of times it's like cases related to trauma where some of it's already partially um, removed. There's not a lot of indications, but it's usually like trauma related, like smashed their foot, something really heavy fell on it. Sometimes sports injuries will happen that will mess up the toenail. Like a lot of soccer players will mess up their toenails. I think I've seen one person that does like dance and ballet and it got messed up. But yeah, I love a good toenail removal. I'll do that every single day if I could.
So you see when it comes through like on the chart or whatever, and you're like, yes.
Yes. I'd be so hyped. I'm like, this is gonna be so good. Look at Jeremy's face.
You know, we're not gonna kink shame here, so.
I don't actually like feet. I actually cannot stand feet.
Oh,
but
come on, bro!
love,
You so hypocritical.
I am who I am. That's, I'm not gonna apologize.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we're gonna land this plane. Right now, there are many young people in the world who aspire to be a doctor, such as yourself. So normally, I would ask, our guests, what are some things that young folks could be doing and preparing themselves to kind of be where you are in the future. But for you, I'm going to ask for something a little more tangible. So say there's a high school student who has a desire to be a doctor. What should they be reading or studying right now to better prepare themselves?
Honestly, I'm not going to give you anything medical. I think, and I'm gonna stay general. I think you should read a lot about like race and the history of how race is played out in different structures and systems in America, because so many programs and medical institutions are trying, or at least in their labeling and mission statements, are trying to include that component of like holistic care and trying to recognize the social context of medical practice. And if you come in there with like, yeah, you're really, really smart, but you don't line up with mission statements, you're not going to be a good fit. And as someone who has interviewed a lot of students, both for getting into med school and then at residency programs, that's like the biggest thing is like, yeah, like their grades are really good, but they can't tell me one, why they want to be a doctor. They can't tell me why they want to come here when we do take care of these type of people. Like you have to understand it. And then hopefully once you've read it and you understand it, then you go and experience it for yourself with different volunteering opportunities, not even necessarily in the clinic. The folks that we actually find most interesting are a lot of folks, like we want to see you have some clinical volunteer experience, but it's usually the folks that have real life experiences outside of medicine that end up having the most depth and grounded answers because it shapes their brain in a complete different way.
Yeah. Good. And we're going to stick on the oh, you had something, eh?
I just have to ask this one question. Are you like your family's doctor? Like they're going in and they're like, I gotta call Luther to verify what you're telling me.
Yeah, but it's funny because, like, yes, they'll call me if they're concerned. If they're concerned about a friend, they'll call me. They'll listen to what I have to say for their friend, but I could be like, yeah, no, it's this, and they'll be like, I think I'm gonna just do this instead. I'm like, don't call me and ask me, and then not listen.
That's real.
Everyone calls me or texts me, and it's fine. I'm honored, honestly.
Yeah, I know who to call if I need a toenail removed. All right, so final question. 2 parts. What is the greatest book you've ever read, and what is the last book you read?
Greatest book I've ever read. Well, greatest favorite is I really like. So growing up, I really like Charles Dickens. I really like A Tale of Two Cities, and I know he's so disappointed in that. And I'm
Bro,
gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you
he's
why.
my work. Okay, I'm not
I'm gonna
gonna
tell you why I
go there.
like it so much. Is because I feel like the more mess we see in society, the more I'm like, I get it. Like the social class tension and the lack of awareness or concern for others is it's so palpable right now. And I feel that tension probably just be every day just because of where I'm working and like going from basically downtown area towards, I got to get through Englewood and then I get it through all these different places. I'd be like, I see why people are mad. I see why there's people come and like are just angry before their appointment starts. It doesn't matter if we're on time or late. Like the anger is just built up from so much other stuff, and I get it. I'm like I literally understand. I feel we gonna have a revolution at some point, but like I just hope I'm all good. The last book I read was actually written by friend, colleague, brother, met at U Chicago. It's called Behind the Hood by Robert Eshman. Um, it was a look into how internet specifically has kind of changed how folks interact with race, both on the side of protecting their racial identity and also how the rules of racism have changed and play out. It was what I think I liked about it so much is that like he did a really good job of just like keeping it simple. And I think when you start to get into like really academic topics, it's very easy to write at a high level, but I don't feel like you have to be this like graduate level, like master's student to get it. I feel like you could pick it up and read it and be like, oh, I get it. It's very, very easy to read. I actually really, really, really recommend it. I told him, I was like, you did your thing. I'm proud of you.
That's real. I'm gonna just say this. I want to read that book. I'm gonna have to look it up. But Charles Dickens, he'll spend 2 pages talking about a doorknob, and you like reading it, and you like, all right, you trying to hold now. You holding on to that doorknob because you know that doorknob is gonna mean something, and it don't mean anything. And every time I read Charles Dickens, it pisses me off. I'll be like, bro, you could have cut this book in half. You just describing things that don't matter. It's not allegory. It's not foreshadowing. Not a metaphor for nothing. He just being mad descriptive. But that's my Charles Dickens take.
Why is this such a fresh take? Like, why are you freshly irritated about this?
Because I have strong opinions about things that don't nobody care about. So, so that's a wrap. Thank you all for going on this journey with us. I want to thank Luther, Dr. Walls for being such an amazing guest. We really appreciate you. Before we go, is there anything else you want to highlight or kind of tell the people how they can get in touch with the IMAN Health Center?
Yeah, definitely stop by. Come see us. We do have walk-ins. I work basically not every day. Let me not lie. I'm mostly Monday through Friday, but it's 9 to 5, and then Wednesdays we're open from 10 to 7. We are on 63rd in California. It's a big sign. You really can't miss us. Come in if you don't have a good primary care doctor. Come in. You should check in. Think about the last time you've been to see a doctor, and I can tell you it's probably been too long.
All right, take care.
Can
of
you
your
just
body.
like one final tip, tell the people how often they should see a doctor?
Yeah, so the basic thing that I'll say, it kind of depends on the age and it depends on what conditions you have or don't have. As like a millennial, if you don't have a whole lot of things going on, probably once a year is okay. As you get closer to 40, you might start coming a little bit sooner. And the other time that you should go see a doctor is if you think you should go see a doctor. Yeah, if you're like something doesn't feel right, or I just like have something's telling me to go, you should go.
Okay. Word to the wise. So until next time, Keep teaching, keep learning, and keep loving y'all. Peace.